So, I call this Being Open, a discussion in several chapters. Chapter 1, the beginning. The roots of my message today come from a couple of different places. The first one was on the Saturday of the recent rummage sale. A man came out with a rolling chair and I offered to help him put it in his car. As I was helping him, he commented, "I can't tell my wife where I got this." And I said, "Why, she doesn't buy at rummage sales?" And he said, "No, there are heathens in there." And I said, "What? Why would you say that?" "Because they don't believe in God." I took a deep breath. I asked God to hold my tongue and fix my face. That's not true. We are a welcoming community. We welcome people of all faiths. He dismissed me. "They're laughing in there and they're all going to hell." "Now that we don't believe," I answered. He put the chair in his car and then he pulled his Bible out of the glove compartment. He read a quick passage and started to launch into a sermon. I stopped him, pointing to the sanctuary, and I told him, "I'll get my sermon tomorrow when I'm in there." He drove off mumbling. I prayed he get home safely. I was appalled. Sally walked by me and I pulled her over and said, "Oh, I have to tell you something. I told her, she listened, I vented, and then I had to laugh because people like him are the reason I worship here. On the other end of the spectrum is the person who tells me that they are appreciative of all the races and the ethnicities, but when I comment on a microaggression I have experienced in a social or professional situation, my open-minded friend tells me, "I don't see race. I don't see difference." I'm not sure which is more challenging, talking to someone who does not recognize the misgivings and the false beliefs all too present in everyday life, or the one who denies their existence when they're pointed out. At least naivete may allow for a reachable moment, some kind of dialogue if the listener is open. The latter has already decided case closed and the opportunity for dialogue is closed with it. Our fourth principle is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Today, I wanted to discuss some of the ways to bring that principle into our interactive lives. Chapter 2, the definition. Years ago, in talking to a friend about being a psychotherapist, she commented to me, "Well, isn't it your job to tell people what to do, to tell them how to fix their lives?" I told her that would be incredibly presumptuous, and she looked at me quite puzzled. I went on to explain to her that when I work with people, I consider myself a guest in their home. But in this case, this is the home, the psyche. As people take me on a tour of their home, I look at what they want me to see. They take me to the various rooms filled with the essence of who they are. As we go by the locked rooms, I pause. "What's in there?" "Nothing," my host tells me. We pass the door again, maybe 2-3 conversations later. I look, my host says, "Nothing I want to share." Each time we meet and come close to the door, I offer that we can go in together slowly when my host is ready. Eventually, I notice the door is ajar, and so we begin. We start to move through the web of anxiety, the coldness of fear, the mustiness of shame, looking at the empty shelves of abandonment or the overturned spoils of violation. We begin to clean house, to define that which has a hold on us and to decide what no longer serves us. And as we let go, that thing no longer has a hold on us. Such as it is, I believe, when we deal with differences, race, culture, religion, politics, age, youth, illness, death, just to name a few of our dark rooms. David Richo describes a process by which we audit our beliefs to examine our internal processes, where they come from and how they influence who we are. He talks about the importance of recognizing several growth-promoting values. One of those values is to seek the beliefs that keep directing us to reality rather than wishful thinking or candy-coated views. I find we are all the same, a sugar-coated value that does not allow me to be all of who I am, while it may allow the one saying it to feel open. Sometimes to say we are open means we don't define our opinions or our thoughts, but they're still there, and eventually the narrowness of our thoughts become known. Judgment, fear, anger, limited experience, vulnerability. Malcolm X once said, "Despite my firm convictions, I have been always a man who tries to face facts and to accept the reality of life as new experience and new knowledge unfolds it. I have always kept an open mind, which is necessary to the flexibility that must go hand in hand with every form of intelligent search for truth." Chapter 3, Generalizations. Generalizations often bring us comfort. We observe something, then we incorporate it into a broader understanding. Sometimes this works. This can help us understand a lot of incoming information. We gather, we filter, we designate the appropriate mental shelf, we store it, and then we move on. But what if our generalizations don't fit? What if they are inaccurate? We tend to miss the nuances, indeed the beauty of the uniqueness, that which falls outside what we know. To not see race is to miss the richness of our different roots and our different stories. To not see age is to undervalue experience and wisdom. To not see youth is to miss the freshness of values and ideas. To not see dying is to not appreciate the last words of a lived life. Life is always unfinished business. That thought is at once comforting and frightening. Comforting that we can keep working on it, growing, sculpting, reshaping, which is an incredible invitation for creativity. Frightening in that life does not come with maps that take us directly where we want to go. Free and responsible search for truth and meaning. While we have shared truths along the way, that which brings us together in friendship, love, family, schools, churches, and communities, we also have the pursuit of our individual truths that are a reflection of that from which we came. That means there are times when we will walk a path together and times when we will walk a different path. The question is, what happens when our paths meet? Can I tell you about my journey? Are you going to listen? Or are you going to change my story so it looks like yours and it feels like it fits better, and then you can understand it, believe it, and then it makes sense to you? In your haste to dismiss the differences, you will also miss the commonality. Chapter 4, How to Listen. Being open is about being able to take in the reality of what is around us and being willing to own our own feelings on it and being willing to wrangle with that which is outside our own experience. We can agree to disagree. Isaac Asimov once said, "Your assumptions are windows on the world. Scrub them off every once in a while or the light won't come in." I have never seen anyone clean house and not get dirty in the process. We discard the old, the no longer needed, that which does not fit. We scrub, we wash, we hose down, we repot, etc. Those of you who grew up in the era of spring cleaning, you get that, right? Personal house cleaning works pretty much the same way. But somehow, when it comes to dealing with the differences among us, we expect to have pristine conversations, comfortable conversations, where we will say all the right things or nothing at all. Now, having said that, I know there are some of you who will lean into a spirited conversation. I actually shared that story about the gentleman at the rummage sale with somebody, and they said, "Oh, well, did you tell him this and did you tell him that?" And I thought, no, I didn't, but okay. That's another way to approach it. I know for many more, we don't reveal ourselves, and we find it very hard, if not impossible, to take in the reality of another, if that reality is not shared. We don't want to get messy, but that's like cleaning house without getting dirty. You dust the surface and it all looks good. Then someone comes along and takes something off the shelf, exposing the area that hasn't been touched for years. And we get mad and we scramble to put the stuff back in place, cover our exposed areas. Think about it. One of the reasons this happens is because we recognize that this is not a part of us that we want showing. In those moments, we make a choice. We can choose to put things back and just make sure they're never moved, or we can work to clean the house, one room at a time. Final chapter. I cannot draw you a map because our journey is likely different, simply because in this life, I'm traveling in this body with this skin and this set of experiences. But I can call your attention to some points of intersection. He is 30 years old, an immigrant with 2 children and a wife. He is not yet documented. He came here for a better life. Hey, didn't your folks move across country because there was work here and they wanted to get to a better life? She watches TV and she rarely sees people who look like her or her family. She feels invisible. Hey, didn't you grow up in a military family traveling all over the place and every time you landed you felt kind of invisible? They grew up in a big house and they never worried about food. Most people see them as spoiled. Hey, didn't you grow up in your grandmother's house, never missing a meal, and didn't kids call you spoiled? Points of intersection can be shame, they can be discomfort, they can be hard to talk about. They can also bring peals of laughter. Your mom made you eat peas? Mine too. Did you ever watch a scary movie and wonder, why are those people walking toward the squeaky door? Did you ever root for the home team even when they weren't winning? Those are commonalities. Those are commonalities that we miss when we cannot sit down and talk. If everything has to be the big conversation, then the underpinnings of coming together and truly being open, we don't get to touch. We don't get to experience because we're afraid of what it's going to look like, and will it be clumsy? Will I do it right? I'm going to end with David Richo. I am thankful for the set of values I received in the course of my life from so many sources. At the same time, I am examining the scaffolding of beliefs, values, and assumptions that I inherited from family, school, religion, and society. One by one, I seek to dismantle and discard those that are not in keeping with mature adult living and cherish those that are. And I would add that this is not sugarcoating, but it is very sweet.